Now that you have a free trial to PlantPredict Pro, I'd like to show you some of the premium features that come along with this free trial. So let's start off by creating a project. We're going to call this My Trial Project. We're going to build this in Antioch, California. We're going to do this down near West Hartley. I'm going to create a new prediction. Call this Trial Prediction. And we're going to build it on a map. First thing I'm going to want to do is bring in a weather file. We're going to select the topmost weather file, which is the one that's right on top of my project. It's a median. Save and close selection. Then we're going to click the Start button next to PV Blocks and Arrays. Clicking the small mountain icon, I can switch between terrain view and satellite view. I'm going to zoom in on the project location that I'm going to focus on. Now clicking this map overlays icon here, you can see all the premium map overlays that are available with the PlantPredict Pro subscription. We're going to select the parcel layer, which is going to bring in orange outlines for each of our parcels. And when I click on one of these parcels, it's going to tell me some information about that parcel and give me the ability to click Create Site Boundary button that's going to create a site boundary right on top of that parcel boundary. Now uncheck that and then click this wetlands. You can see the wetlands that have come in. When I click on that, I can create a constraint with a 50-foot setback on top of that wetland. And also check things like FEMA floodplains or transmission lines. So if I click on transmission lines, you can see we have some transmission lines just to the east of the site, but nothing infringing upon my site. I can also bring in pipeline data, see if there's any pipelines that I need to worry about. There's no pipelines on top of my site, but I do have a pipeline off here to the east, a natural gas pipeline. All right, I'm going to unselect those two. Now we're going to return back to our power plant parameters to continue on with the design of this project. All right, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a demo central inverter and then add First Solar Series 7 540 module. I'm going to put my target DC at 40 megawatts, my ground coverage ratio 40%. I'm going to use a horizontal tracker, and I'm only going to have east-west roads, so I'm going to put 0 in the north-south rows field. And I'm going to hit Update DC Capacity. You can see I was easily able to fit 40 megawatts onto the site. If I want to see what this looks like from a table view, I can switch my Create DC as Tables and hit Update DC Capacity, and this will show my tracker tables instead of my array shapes. All right. If I want to do some topographical analysis, I can click this 3D View button. And what PlantPredict is going to do is it's going to pull in elevation points for this entire area. Then it'll create a digital surface and then build a 3D model on top of that digital surface. Turning off the wireframe view, I can get a better view of how this power plant looks. Notice the red and blue areas. The red is indicating that we have slope greater than 6%, which is my slope tolerance, and it's south facing. And the blue is indicating that we have slope greater than 6% and it's north facing. So you can see we have some topography to deal with around this wetland area. I can also bring up a PLP 1000. The PLP 1000 is a handy PDF-based layout document. You can put in your company name, project and prediction name, as well as your megawatt AC. When you click Download PLP 1000, it's going to download a PDF version of this layout. there we can see what that looks like. Moving on. I can also get a high-level bill of materials, and I can download this data as either a KMZ, DXF, or shapefile. I'm going to download this as a KMZ file, which is going to be handy when we go into Design Pro. At this point, I can save my progress and close out of the map builder. And if I want to run the prediction, I click the Run Prediction button, and it'll run my prediction. But I'm going to actually move into Design Pro, because now that I've done a high-level indicative design, I want to take my design and analysis to the next level. You can do that within Design Pro. So I'm going to start by hitting this Create New Project button. I'm going to use the default project name, and I'm going to click this Upload KML KMZ, and then click Upload. We're going to grab the very top KMZ file, which is the one that we had created within PlantPredict. This is going to pull in all those KMZ shapes and display them on the map. We'll hit Save. And then Create New Simulation. All right, those shapes that came into my KMZ file, Design Pro only knows them as shapes, so we have to use this KML tool on the right-hand side to tell Design Pro what these shapes represent. So at the very top is the site boundary. When I click the boundary button, you're going to see a maroon boundary that comes up around this site, and then the site boundary is placed in this Site Plan Objects window on the left, and then my DC constraint is an exclusion area. The rest of these tables are the tables that PlantPredict had drawn. We're going to ignore those because Design Pro is going to do its own layout. So next I want to hide the KMZ shapes for this site by clicking this eyeball and then close out my KML KMZ window. Next thing I'm going to do is add a substation to my site. So I'm going to drop a substation over here on the southeast corner of my site and hit Next. All right, we are going to design using our quick selection tiles. So we're going to use the large format module, single axis tracker, and central inverter. If I wanted to use a custom product selection, I'll have access to all the modules and inverters that exist within the PlantPredict module and inverter library. I'll also have the ability to adjust my tracker configuration. I'm going to click Next. All right, if I wanted to see how much DC capacity is available at a 40% ground coverage ratio, I put 0.40 in the GCR. And looking at my GCR capacity chart, you can see at a 40% GCR, we're estimating that we could fit 37.837 megawatts DC on the site. All right, another thing that I could do is I could say I'm targeting a 30 megawatt AC power plant with a 1.2 DC AC ratio. And you can see the chart adjusts automatically there and tells me that at 36% GCR, I would be able to fit 28.35 megawatts AC and 34 megawatts DC on the site. So I'm going to start with that scenario. I'm going to add another scenario, once again 30 megawatts AC, but this time I'm going to go with a 1.25 DC AC ratio and add that scenario. Then doing a third scenario, I'm going to go once again 30 megawatts AC, but this time a 1.3 DC-AC ratio. So you can see you can build out a list of scenarios that you want to design with, and Design Pro will run all of those in parallel. I'm going to click Next. If I want to adjust any of my energy parameters, you go into the losses section. You have your site losses, your DC losses, and your AC losses, which are configurable. You also have the ability to adjust your cost parameters. We provide some default cost parameters from our proprietary cost database, but you can come in and adjust those and override those. We also have some financial inputs when we do the LCOE analysis. At this point, I'm going to click Submit and let Design Pro get to work. So the first thing that Design Pro is going to do is it's going to create 3 unique layouts based upon my target AC capacity and my DC-AC ratio. Then what it's going to do is it's going to build a detailed bill of quantities. It's going to use that detailed bill of quantities to run an energy yield report using PlantPredict. It will generate a grading plan for the site, so I'll understand what my earthwork requirements are going to be. It'll generate a EPC cost estimate and then an LCOE. You can see my layouts are complete. So keeping my AC at 28.35, you can see as my DC-AC ratio increases, my DC capacity also increases along with my GCR. Going into Terrain Pro by clicking on this Terrain Pro icon, we can see some of the details behind the grading analysis that was done. So Terrain Pro came up with 72,391 bank cubic meters worth of earthwork. 53,000 of those bank cubic meters is cut and 19,000 is fill. We also see that we have around 14 hectares of disturbed area. Our heat map gives us a good idea where that earthwork is. If I click to the cut fill map, I can see the cut and the fill, the blue being the fill, the red being the cut. And if I use my right mouse button, I can actually transition this into a 3D view of my site so that I can see how some of these hills are impacting my cut and my fill. I'm also able to see an original surface and a finished surface representation. And then I can see also a pile view. We have 2 different pile views. One is top of pile and the other one is pile reveal. All right, going back to my earthwork view, I can adjust my input parameters and see how a change to any of these tracker parameters will affect my grading assessment. I'm going to see what happens if I incorporate some terrain following trackers onto the site. So I'm going to adjust my maximum slope change, which is the change in slope at the post. And I'm going to add a 1.0, I hit enter, degree articulation angle. So I'm going to allow the slope to change up to 1 degree at each of my piles. Hit apply. What that's going to do is it's going to create a configuration number 2 with maximum slope change of 1 degree. And when I hit run, it's going to redo that earthwork assessment and tell me how much grading is required using this terrain following tracker on my site. In a matter of seconds, we can see already that our grading has been reduced down to 27,111 bank cubic meters. And we can see on our heat map the amount of disturbed area has been drastically reduced, and you can get an idea of where all that cut fill is. All right, jumping back over to Design Pro, all of our scenarios are complete now. As the DC-AC ratio increases, you can see our yield actually goes down, along with our cost per watt also goes down. So the big question is the loss in yield more significant than the decrease in cost? And we can tell that by looking at our LCOE. So you can see the lowest LCOE is actually the 1.2 DC-AC ratio. So by increasing DC on this site, we actually did not actually help the economics at all for this site. If I want to dig in more into the details of what's going on behind the scenes of this scenario, I can download a zip file that'll contain the detailed BOQ as well as financial or the cost estimate and the financial analysis report. All right. If you want to run another scenario, you can click the clone simulation icon and start all over and run just another batch of scenarios, or you can always just start over with create new simulation. All right. Well, we hope that that's enough for you to get started taking advantage of this free trial. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@terrabase.energy, and we'll be glad to help you. All right. Enjoy.